Welcome everybody to the CRYENGINE AMA. Well, it's technically not an AMA, it's a Q&A session today because we're not talking about almost anything today. We are talking specifically about the latest CRYENGINE update 5.7 LTS. As you guys know, LTS stands for long-term support. And that means that this is a CRYENGINE version that should be stable and provide you with everything you need to make great games for a longer while until we see the next big update, CRYENGINE. So, you all probably know me. I'm CRYNIC, aka Gabriel. I am the brand manager CRYENGINE. And I brought with me another very familiar face, CryFlare, aka Jeremy, who used to be the technical community manager for CRYENGINE. But Jeremy has moved up in the world. You want to introduce yourself again, Jeremy?
Yeah, thanks, Nick. So I'm CryFlare, or aka Uniflare, or aka Jeremy Wade. I'm the new product owner for the SDK in CRYENGINE. To go into a little bit of detail of what that entails, that means I'll be spearheading the changes coming to the content of the engine, so templates, game SDK related parts of the engine, content itself as well. So that's going to be me and my team.
Awesome. Thank you, Jeremy. We are thrilled to see that what your team and you can do for CRYENGINE in the next couple of iterations. And you're already working very hard on CRYENGINE 5.7 LTS as well, which is why you are the person that can probably tell us a little bit about what's next for CRYENGINE 5. And we have asked our lovely community to ask us some questions previously to that. So let me see. I'm just catching up with chat here. Sorry. I have two chats going on. One, the immediate from the meeting, and the other one, the AMA questions chat, where we were collecting the questions previously. How many weeks has 5.7 been out yet? Jeremy, remind me again. It was published April 5th, right? That's what we did.
Exactly, yeah. April 5th. So 20 days.
20 days. You guys all waited for this a very long time. And we know we changed the roadmap a couple of times in between due to business needs and, well, some things happening in the world. But still, we want to give you the best update that we can currently. So let's see. We had a couple of questions. Tristan, for example, had a couple of questions. Is Tristan here today? Can't see the icon right now. Moose King says, rest in peace, Tristan. I don't think we have to go that far, but let me just read out the questions for them because they don't seem to be here to ask them themselves. So Tristan's question were, is there anything else planned to add to 5.7 LTS? Either some additional enhancements, in brackets, FBX pipeline workflow improvements, pretty please, or bug fixes? And I think Jeremy can answer that for us.
Yeah, I can. So yeah, it kind of touches on a couple other questions that come up that's similar. Like what's coming for the LTS? Are we doing any more features, or as was asked, any bug fixes and things? For major feature development, it's going to be almost a definite no. The LTS isn't planned to be like a major feature improvement branch, but we are looking at some bits and pieces that we can integrate to help our users with their workflows with the engine and that kind of thing. Specifically about the FBX, I'm not aware of anything that's currently planned for the FBX. If you have a workflow that's broken or you have some issues that's preventing you from working with the engine, please do let us know on the private GitHub issues. It's super easy to get access to the private repo and put your issues on there. And go into more detail about that later, just to clarify that. But for bug fixes, we are looking to integrate some bug fixes, especially the fixes that come from upgrading from 5.6.7. So if you notice an issue that wasn't in 5.6.7 that is in 5.7, the LTS. That's something that we want to prioritize, right? We don't want any new issues in LTS. It's supposed to be more stable. So we've done our best to find any issues, and we fixed a lot already. This also includes the new features as well. So Cry scale form schematic, the scale form 4 implementation, the game platform plugin. If you see issues with these, do let us know. This will also be looked at. As I say, for new big features, DirectX 12 or integrating like a new middleware like Houdini in the LTS, no, this isn't the purpose of the LTS. The LTS is the long-term support of the current iteration of the engine. It's not a major feature release, which will be happening later on.
You're already answering questions from other people here, I see. The Houdini question.
Yeah, that was a kind of open question about what's coming. So yeah, might as well try and bundle them together a little bit.
Where's the fun in that? I mean, no, we do that here. People, if they're here, if they want to ask the questions themselves, it's a bit of an interactive bit, right? So yeah. But yeah, it fed into the narrative right there. Should I move on to the next question? Because I think Tristan had a lot of upvotes on their questions because they are covering a lot of bases. So I would just continue with their questions.
Yeah, no, if there's more questions, go for it.
So Tristan's next question is 5.7 LTS is a long-term support release. Can we have an idea of exactly how long that is? And I think that is surely a burning question that everybody has, but unfortunately, we cannot exactly say anything about a time frame. We are hard at work on a roadmap for CRYENGINE and what's next. And what I can tell you is that many of the things that have been on the roadmap before or under R&D are definitely going to make it. But I don't want to tell you any specifics because it's not set in stone yet. And I know it's hard to wait, but I think it's even worse to be told something and then it's almost like a promise, right? And then we have to take it back again. That happened in the past. And I don't want to go there ever again if possible. I mean, software development is a very agile process. You guys are game developers, you know how it goes, feature creep and technical debt, and sometimes changes in team composition make it so that you have to adjust your roadmap to either business needs or circumstances. And that is the same for us. CryEngine is a monolithic tool with a full tool suite for game development. And I think what we're going to do now is we're going to find our place on the market. We're going to evaluate what to focus on. And while we're doing that, unfortunately, there is no update on a definitive roadmap because we have decided to not jump ahead and possibly disappoint you guys again. So thank you for your ongoing support and your trust in this matter. Anything to add from your side, Jeremy?
Yeah, I mean, it's also, speaking about the timelines, I mean, there's not going to be another major release. We've already mentioned this for 5. So that era is finished, but we are looking into potentially some hot fixes and things if need be. I can't give any timeline on this, obviously, but for the next major release, I mean, the LTS will be here until the next major release. And the fact that we are supporting just the LTS will give us more freedom and a bit more flexibility on supporting you guys on this version, if that helps.
Yeah, I hope it does. And we're listening to your feedback, guys, definitely. As Jeremy already said, there's also an update planned for the 5.7 LTS, a hotfix, to make sure that if any of you guys find any glaring issues, bugs, or problems, that we want to address them if possible, to paraphrase what Jeremy said before, we won't add any new features most likely, but we'll do what we can to make this a version that you guys can work with and can continue your projects that you have started with CryEngine 5. So if you started or still have a project in CryEngine 5, but maybe an earlier version of 5.7, please consider moving over. 5.7 LTS is made with backwards compatibility in mind, so it shouldn't be too hard. Of course, if you're on a very early version, like 5.4 for reasons, then please see if it is feasible at the point where you are with your project and your team. And if you have any problems, just let us know, and we will do our best to help you there. But it is definitely advised to move your projects to CryEngine 5.7. There is another question from Tristan. That question is there a plan now or in the future to have more modular game components instead of monolith game SDK that has to be modified from source? And I'm sure Jeremy will to speak about that.
Yeah, definitely. So we're currently going through some ideas and planning for how we want to improve the usability of the game SDK, or like that area of the engine, right? We've heard and we know about all the issues of having such a monolithic legacy code base. The actual game is mostly coded in a specific way, so expanding on things, unless you're doing like an FPS shooter, it's very difficult to really get around some of the hard codings of the game SDK, and that's definitely something that we want to get rid of. We want to improve how you can develop your games. Modularity is definitely something we want to achieve. I mean, how it turns out in the end, I can't say. It's heavy development right now. But yeah, definitely want to improve how you make your games. I want to get rid of as much of this needing a programmer stuff as much as we can. We understand that's a big limitation for smaller teams, or even teams that are inexperienced with specifically CryEngine. I mean, it's a massive engine, right? It's a big tool. You've got to learn all these different things, and learning the code can be a big endeavor. But we do definitely want to improve that side of the engine. And this goes for everything: the game SDK, the templates, any other content that we release. So yeah, definitely we want to improve this, but this won't be for the LTS. This will be the next version.
Great. Thank you, Jeremy. And let's look at some other questions. We received quite a few. Denalti was asking a question. Not sure I understand the question. With 5.7 LTS becoming the only supported version and the other versions being deprecated from the launcher and GitHub, will there be an update to all the asset projects to work with 5.7 LTS, or will those assets tutorials become abandoned? Is this about everything that's on the marketplace? I guess so, Jeremy?
Yeah, it sounds like they're talking about the marketplace assets, or the assets from the asset database. So we don't want to remove these old assets, especially if someone is adamant on staying on an older version of the engine. We don't want to pull these assets away from the asset database. So no, they'll be staying there on the asset database. Whether we update them to the LTS, if it wasn't already updated with the LTS, so Galaxis, Game SDK, we don't have any plans right now to update them to the LTS. Yeah, I hope that answers your question.
It's very valid because we have a lot of assets valuable assets on the asset database. So everything that Crytek provides, we will do our best to do some triage and see what makes sense. If you have a specific request for something that is important for you, your workflow, or that you especially want to see, it's always recommended that you let us know. Because, business needs, if something, we look at the numbers sometimes, we can see how many times something has been downloaded, accessed, or viewed, how many reviews it got. And if something looks like it hasn't been used that much or not that much in the past year or so, it might very well be that we deprioritize it. But in any case, if you feel anything from the asset database that Crytek is providing is important for you and has not been updated and you would like to see it updated, let us know and we can put it under evaluation. Of course, we have no power over third-party assets. So everything that comes from third-party providers, we probably cannot update that for you. So you would have to get in touch with the person who put it on the asset database in the first place. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, and also, just to clarify, the asset packs that we've released, the crisis animation pack, the climb assets, these asset packs should be perfectly usable in the LTS. So mainly the affected asset database items that wouldn't be compatible with the LTS or future versions of the engine would be things that are coded. Things like the Sidewinder template, for example. These things are quite old, so I wouldn't, quite few, I would also say, so I wouldn't worry too much. But most of the things that you'd be using, like the assets themselves, should be perfectly fine.
Penalty, is that satisfactory, or do you want to ask another question regarding this? Perfect. Thank you. Satisfied. Very well, that's what I want to hear. And let's look at some other questions. So Alexander Duval, they're asking about the Oculus APK extension. Can we expect the Oculus APK extension? That's one of the most appealing features of Oculus.
So this is kind of outside of my area. Definitely not for the LTS. This would be a major feature development. So technically this is Android, I guess. I can't give any details or anything. There's no, as I say, this isn't my area. But I can say at least that we're looking at several different platforms, and Android, Linux, these kind of platforms we're looking at. But whether we would continue down that avenue, whether it's feasible for us in the term for the next major release, I can't say.
Alexander is here today. Sorry, I didn't ask you if you wanted to step on stage. Is that a satisfactory answer as far as we can give it? Yes, thank you, is what they say. All right, perfect. Yeah, as Jeremy said, would be feature development. So, I know it's probably about Oculus Quest, right? You probably want to make a game for Oculus Quest, I reckon.
Yeah, it sounds like it. And that would require Android support. Currently not in the engine, but yes. We'd love to support every platform, as we say, but yeah, we have to pick our battles, and we have no definitive word on which new platforms will support in the future.
We have developed for Oculus Quest ourselves in the studio, but unfortunately, as you guys know, the stuff that we do for our own games doesn't always make it into the engine because we can hack in very specific things in our game builds. But as soon as we have to make them available to everyone, and they have to suddenly fulfill much more requirements, they have to work for every team, on every system, on every build. And that is much more than our solutions that are production proven, but in theory, production proven prototypes, right? But we draw from that experience. And of course, we know that, and that Android development in general and mobile VR is a very interesting field that we have invested in the past ourselves. So we really try to get there and make that available. as Jeremy said, we would want to support every platform, but we have to look at the business needs. So how many people have registered games, for example, for PC? How many people have registered games they want to bring to Xbox and PlayStation? And how many people have registered games and expressed interest in Android development, for example? So that's why, my sermon, I always say, hey, please register your projects, even if it's early on, even if you don't have a definitive release date. Just register your games, your projects, so we can gauge how much demand there is for a certain feature. And then we can much better support you in your development.
Yeah, and I think it's maybe a common...
a misconception.
Kind of. It's a word that has negative connotations, but technically it would be ignorance, right? The non-knowledge of the topic of releasing a public product. You have to make sure that what you release, as Nick said, works for everyone, but it's also that what you release is going to be used for a long time, and people are going to be used to how it works. And this is some of the issues that we have so far, right? We have a lot of old tech, a lot of old tools and products and things in the engine, a lot of old systems people are used to that we've had to maintain over the years, even if we don't use them ourselves. And the problem with releasing stuff, we can't just, we could just push everything that we use internally, right? But then that will be the last release ever, because we can't possibly maintain that and build new features. So you have to look at it as we have features that we are using internally, and we want to bring them to you, but we have to make it in such a way that we know that it's something that is actually going to be useful to you now and in the future, and something that we can maintain. And that's one of the biggest issues, is maintenance. I think for the programmers in chat, it's going to be quite clear that if you're writing a library, for example, how you structure your library is very important. And even Microsoft has this issue, right? The Windows API has so much legacy stuff in it. And they have to support that, because otherwise it would break programs from years ago. So it's not just an issue for us, it's an issue for every software development company. And we want to bring as much as we can, but it's the old adage that you have to make it for the future and not just for now.
Thanks for the insight, Jeremy. I think that was very helpful. Because for people like me as well, I'm the marketing guy, you know me. I have some technical knowledge, but I'm not a programmer, so I often see opportunities where I think like, hey, we already have this here. Why don't you give it to everyone? But there is a lot of expectation if you provide a feature for a broader audience, right? And as Jeremy said, the maintenance is what you have to think about most and for all. Because if we give a feature to people, and we have done this in the past, right? We churn out features. People like the features, and even if it's just a beta or a feature, like schematic, for example, people tend to like it, and then they keep asking for it. They get used to it. They want to see it. And sometimes we have to face it that currently we're not in the position to offer a new feature and also maintain it, at least not, alongside some other features. And with schematic, we know that it couldn't exist alongside Flowgraph, for example, because they're kind of a kind of a solution of the same kind for the same problem, but completely different systems that are not possible to connect easily. So, and you guys know it, you have worked for it for years, you have worked with it for years. So at some point you have to make a decision to deprecate old systems and in favor of new ones. And that is always also going to upset people who have worked and liked the old systems. So these decisions never come in easy, and we think a lot about it. And that's also why we want your feedback, why we need some feedback from you guys, how you like things and what's happening. So whenever you give your feedback here on the server, on the forums, or our social media channels or on GitHub, most importantly. Sometimes you give feedback and we can't respond immediately, but we never forget and we do not ignore it. It's just that some things take time because some of these development decisions, they have a lot of weight to them. And we have to be careful to not bite off more than we can chew and yet again disappoint you guys with something. Denalti says, we love schematic. I know you do. Everybody loves schematic. Which is why we want to keep investing into a solution like schematic. Like I said, I can't just speak about the things to come yet in definitive terms, but I think I have already heard Chinese whispers also on this server that you haven't heard the last of schematic, but the iteration how it is in CryEngine 5 currently is probably going to change a lot. And we hope we can broadcast about that soon in more detail. I don't want to get ahead of myself or us or Jeremy, who's probably nervously looking at me right now. But yeah, what I want to say is we hear you guys and we know that schematic has seen a lot of great feedback in the past and that a lot of the feedback was, hey, when can we make a full game with schematic? And visual scripting is a powerful tool, not just for prototyping nowadays. You can build whole games with visual scripting methods and other engines. But that also means that if we want to implement visual scripting, we have to do it right because we will always be compared with competitor products. But we also don't want and can't, for legal reasons, just copy what other people have done. And we have to see what works best for CryEngine, what works best for us, for our games, for your games, our community. And we want to build a solution that is unique and special and still gives you the edge in game development. And we are taking that very seriously.
Yeah, I mean, personally, schematic experimental that's in the LTS right now, I mean, it's a prototype. It was never meant for full production, but it is quite robust, actually. You can do quite a lot with it. It has limitations in areas since it's experimental, it's a prototype. It isn't completely fleshed out, so we didn't finish, right? It was just like, hey, have a look, see what you think about it, and let us know how you like it. But yeah, for what it is, it's even in that prototype state, it's very robust. And yeah, I would say I'm looking forward to the next iteration of the visual scripting systems in the engine.
So is Jan here today? Because they had some more questions, I think. And I think I saw them. Yep, they're here. Jan, but it's probably different in Czech. So I'm probably just butchering the name right now. Do you want to get on stage, so to speak, take the mic and ask your questions yourself?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep. Yeah, awesome. So I guess I go straight to the questions. First question I had was about the tutorials for new features. And I think I have found like one tutorial in documentation, so this might be obsolete. But yeah, maybe it would be nice to kind of have the tutorials linked and with the release news, and already have some tutorials when the new version releases. So
I can say something about that actually. Jumping in here, Jeremy. It's like, hey, I have something to say. Yeah, I mean, so basically, for tutorials, it's good that you mentioned this because we are very excited to bring you some new tutorials about, UI and scale from UI and the new old features that getting. So the reason why we didn't bring them to you with release or exactly with release is because we actually have a new tutorial outro. We have ramped up the team, but we needed some time to train them. And the whole month of May, we are hoping to bring to you 3 new tutorials. And we will definitely add documentation and also link them in the feature pages. That is going to come. And I think we have planned something about physics and definitely UI. So if there's more you want to see for 5.7 specifically, please let us know here on Discord, on the forums, or wherever you can take hold of us. Because we are very eager to make sure that you have a bit more to latch onto now that this version is stable enough to work with it. And, after the hotfix, we hope we have achieved a very good equilibrium. And moving forward, there will definitely be more tutorials to come.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Then I think I don't have to ask the next question because you already answered it. That's the one with the more features. I'm looking for the question you didn't answer. I guess my next question would be the one about Raytracing. Whether you can at least give us the Raytracing from the demo, even though it's experimental and it might not work correctly, but it would be just fun to experience it and have some fun time with that.
It kind of falls into what we mentioned a minute ago there, right? That anything release, there's that expectation, and it's something putting out a release with a new feature, especially like an experimental feature, is a risk, right? If you release something that's half done, or that breaks, or that crashes the engine, not only are you going to have a bad experience, but other people that are trying the engine that maybe don't even know it's experimental would have a bad experience. So it's a risk, and we want to make sure that what we release is up to par. For the LTS, unfortunately, there's no plans to bring the ray tracing stuff to the engine, but we are looking to improve and polish this new feature in various ways.
Awesome. Thank you. The next question I have, I'm not sure if you were referring to my question where you talked about the DirectX, but my question is if you plan to make it a little bit more stable in 5.7, because, for example, when I work in editor with DirectX 12, the game sometimes just freezes and I have to close it using Task Manager, and it's not a good thing to have DirectX 12 in editor. So will you make it more workable with?
So for DirectX 12, it is also an experimental renderer, especially in Sandbox. So I think we only added DirectX 12 support for Sandbox in 5.6 actually. It was experimental then, and it hasn't changed much in the LTS. So for stability, you can definitely give us any bug reports or anything that you find for DirectX 12. We don't plan on making this feature complete for the LTS. We are looking at polishing this and finishing this implementation in the future, but for now, unfortunately, the supported renderer for the LTS really is DirectX 11. There's not much. Well, as I say, it's not really my area as well, the rendering side, but for the LTS, definitely not, I'm afraid. But give us the bug reports and just tell us about your product, what you need the DirectX 12 for. If you have a specific requirement for it or something, then we'd like to hear it.
Okay, thank you. And the last question is why have you decided to delete the previous versions of CRYENGINE?
So, I mean, the thing is, I think we answered it before. The issue is that technical debt and, maintenance is a big thing. And it was just asked, for example, about assets on the asset database, the SDK, and many other things. So keeping backwards compatibility for so many additional features, APIs, is a lot of work. And we know that some of the older engine versions technically have issues or have been reported to be unstable. As long as you move ahead, so you think about, hey, next version, it will be better. That's easier. But if we keep the older versions, we have to keep supporting them. We have to keep working with people who run into trouble. And it takes a lot of time. This kind of maintenance for our team that is relatively small, so the team that works on the engine is relatively small, that proved to be a difficult concept, always has been. And you guys always complained about it, rightfully so, because you have expectations that the product is running smoothly. So it was a business decision to say that we will basically focus on this one CRYENGINE 5 version that hopefully can have everything you guys need to move forward. And therefore, we had to sacrifice the older versions of the engine.
Okay, thank you so much. And I wish you all the best. And I'm well looking forward to Crysis 4 and CRYENGINE 6.
Thank you, Jan.
Thanks.
And I have a couple of things that came to my mind while I was listening to the questions and answers. So DirectX 12 is important, and we know that. We work with some of our licensees in the AAA sector as well that have needs there, also Xbox, etc. So we know this is a thing, and we're looking at it. So I feel guilty, so to say, when I hear these things, but it's like, it's one of these things, Microsoft decides that this is going to be it, right? And then everybody has to make sure that they comply. And it's the same with other platforms as well. And that just shows you again how monolithic this task is to provide a software tool that enables people to make games for every platform that is currently on the market. And that's why we have to limit it. That's why, for example, adding mobile development is a huge thing, because it adds so many things like APIs, renderers, third-party software tools. There's so much there, which brings to mind finally why it is so difficult to make that work for everyone, like we said, and also third-party licenses and attributions and everything that has to do with that. Well, because when you license it as the end user, that means that we also have to make sure we cover everything there. So yeah, DirectX 12 is a topic also with some other licensees that we're working with. We know that moving forward, it will be a necessity for development on most Microsoft platforms. And on the same vein, the ray tracing feature is not coming to CRYENGINE 5. We have prototypes, but would we put the prototypes out there for you guys to use? They could cause a lot of damage as well. They could malfunction, cause bugs or critical issues that people lose their progress on their projects. And then we could be held liable for it. If we do that in an official capacity, we just put that out there, it would disappoint a lot of people. And that's simply not worth it. Although I understand that some teams would like to try experimental features and feel confident to do it. It has to happen under different circumstances. It has to be on a case-by-case basis. But you'll be hopefully happy to know that we are working on an ambassador program, and we're working on kind of a beta feature, if you want. We wanted to bring a beta feature to CRYENGINE for a long time now, but again, it's not that easy, because it means we need to set up streams, how to provide builds to you, how to actually channel your feedback. Being in a beta program means that we have to pick and choose people who will be happy to work with us, give us feedback in a specific way how we need it. Then being in a beta program doesn't just mean that we provide new features to you. for free or whatever, but it also means that we expect you to work with us on the feedback on specific things that we need to know to make the feature better. But I know that there are many great teams in the community who would be thrilled to do this and to work with Crytek. And yeah, we are having this underway. I'm working with Arto, our head of product, to bring an ambassador program, an ambassador program on the road. And we will hopefully soon have more to say about that. And it will start with a selection of developers who are interested in helping us with. And of course, I will look at everyone also here in the community, long-term or short-term, who has already expressed interest in working with Crytek in such a way. And for those teams, it will be easier to provide some experimental features if you feel like you could help us test them and make them better, also for the next CryEngine version, and would most likely yield the benefit of you being allowed to use them in your projects. But as I said, this would require to work with us and to sign an NDA. So we can't just do it under the public license, unfortunately, because it's also a legal thing, right? Like I said, things malfunction, you lose progress, yada, yada. There's so much there. Honestly, I'm not a legal person, but it's a lot. It's way much more work than it looks like from the outside, I would say, because whenever I turn around and look at it, I'm like, wow, wouldn't have thought. But yeah, rest assured that we are working on bringing this ambassador product today. You know, sometimes you have this, like there's one word, you get it wrong once, and then you can never do it right again. I'm doomed forever now. So the ambassador program on the way. You guys keep nudging me about it, please. And I will get in touch with people who have expressed interest in the past. And that is one way of actually getting access to, newer versions of CryEngine, experimental versions of CryEngine, features, bits and pieces. But of course, it means that the teams who are eligible for this or who want to work with us should have a bit of self-sustainability in this regard, because it means we cannot fix your code for you if something goes wrong. We can help you because we want to work with you together, fix things and talk maybe about back integrations even. So a mutually beneficial agreement has to be made so that we don't abuse you guys just as beta testers, but you also get something out of it. And get incentives for helping us out, and that we get the feedback we need to actually make it better. And that's why it's still taking a while, but I'm very excited to work on it right now. And while I also can't give a time frame yet, just stay tuned, check your inboxes when we're sending emails about this to contact people who have expressed interest before. And please note that it is important that you have your game or project registered with us, because I can only take registered game projects with a bit of a vertical slice or at least some information about the project for evaluation into consideration for these ambassador programs. I know you heard it 1,000 times, but register your games. Moose King is just tagging everyone. Register your games. Thanks for doing my work for me, Moose King. Thank you. It's appreciated. And like I said about registering your games, I know we're also working on improving that process. Because there's a field. So what I see in game registrations a lot is that people there's a field for a link to a website or a showcase or a vertical slice or something. You have to put a link there and you cannot leave it blank. And many people just put their Steam page, even though their game is not on Steam yet. That doesn't work, unfortunately. Appreciate it. Not going to send you a friend request though. But yeah, that is not enough. But the thing is, you can also send a link to an open Google document link, for example. If you only have a design document or an idea for your game available, you don't have to have a website. It's enough to have a link to an openly available Google document, for example, or a Dropbox link to a PDF with some ideas about your game design. What's the game going to be about? The scope, the topic, what kind of game it's going to be. Is it going to be a first-person shooter? Is it going to be a horror game? Is it going to be a top-down, yada, yada, whatever. So just so we know a bit about your game. And it is okay if that changes, because when you register your game, you will receive an approval or denial from our side within a couple days. If it's a denial, we will usually tell you what's missing. So we will tell you why we cannot approve this game registration. Sometimes it's because there's not enough information. I'm not going to lie to you, most of the time it's because there wasn't enough information. That's why I'm trying to give you some tips how you can do it. A website link doesn't necessarily mean you have a website registered with your name already or whatnot. It's a bit misleading. So I'm looking at setting up this form in a way that it's less misleading when you read it. But yeah, it's okay if your original concept changes. Just keep us in the loop. Provide an original concept for your game that tells us, oh yeah, there's a game there, there's an idea. Even if you don't want to monetize your project, that is fine. Just put your thoughts into words. Give me a link to somewhere where I can see it, because I'm reviewing all of them. Usually there are a couple of other people who help me with it, but I usually look at each of them. And as soon as I can say, yes, I see this person has an original thought and idea, is not copying or infringing on copyright of somebody else. So for example, if somebody registered a Star Wars game, I have to ask, do you have permission from Disney to, use the IP? I can't just have your game registered then. That has nothing to do with like censorship. It's just about, a legal requirement basically. So generally speaking, what I need is an original concept where I can see, okay, this is coming from you, an original IP or a document that tells me you're allowed to use a third-party IP. And then, some bits and pieces and specifics about the scope. And that is really all I need to register your game. And then we can help you much better and take into account your feedback. We will reply to you with, and if it's an approval, you have an email address, which is release@CRYENGINE.com, to go through if you have further questions. So whenever you think, oh, my game has changed, I changed the scope or the release date or anything, you can let us know. Once you receive the approval or denial, you can reply to the email where you got this approval or denial from. And then we can update your registration for you. And that is no problem, and you can do that anytime. Okay, so don't be shy. You actually don't need that much to register a game, even though it looks a bit daunting. And keep your feedback coming as well, because, like I said, I'm working with the web team to improve the process for all of you. Cool. Moose King says, finally, I can show off this 100-page Bible I've barely worked on. Yes, hit me. Hit me, Moose King. I want to see it. I want to see all of your games. Awesome. So it's 6 p.m. where I'm at. So we started a bit late due to technical problems. So I'm just looking at the questions. Is there anything else that we can answer for you guys right now? Yorma asks, what about if I'm not planning on releasing my game unless I change my mind in the future? Yeah, Yorma, that's a good question. It's up to you. See, even a hobbyist project that you don't want to monetize, maybe you want to put it on itch.io one day. I don't know. If you really want to use it just for yourself, it's just a hobby project. It will never see the light of day. You'll never share it with anyone. Then, of course, that begs the question, why would you register it? But see it this way. By registering your game, you help us to see what you work on with our engine, which helps us so we can take into account what you work on when we make decisions for the future product. Of course, if somebody is registering a AAA game with CRYENGINE that they want to make, the stakes are much higher, which means it moves up in priority. I'm not going to lie, because we have to make money somehow. But we also care about the hobbyist projects that people just do for fun. Because honestly, we want to empower and enable people to be creative. We are all creators here. It is important to us, and we want to empower and enable you guys. And we can only do that when you tell us what you're working on. And also, if you register your game with us, you have an official and kind of legal approval that we acknowledged your game. You showed it to us. It's acknowledged, which means also we acknowledge that it is your idea, right? And that probably gives you some more leeway in working on it because it has already been recognized as your idea officially by a business partner. Maybe look at it that way. You can always change your mind if you never want to release it. But hey, it's there. Like you left a mark already, and it's not just existing in your head or on your machine or out in the ether. Yorma says, has more to do with using student license applications not allowed to monetize. You probably talk about third-party licensing, like tools, or do you mean CryEngine itself? Yeah, like Maya student license. Yeah, all right. That's fine. You don't have to license. You don't have to monetize it. You can register a game that is a hobby project and that you'll never plan to monetize. Totally fine. Like I said, we still take it into account then, and we are still going to try to help you. So I would still recommend it. Honestly, I would still recommend registering your game with us. Does that answer your question, Yorma? Cool. Awesome. I think ABCs, guys. Always be registering your game. Nice one, Moose King. All right, that was 5 more minutes of our time. I'm just looking if we missed anything important. Jeremy, did you see anything?
I mean, there's the obvious question from Warzender. I mean, in the end, you use an engine that suits you, and that's what we've always said. The engine is actually, once you get used to it, very powerful. I mean, we use it for our games with not much like additional stuff. So it really depends. Just try it. The artist workflows, for example, were actually very competitive once you get used to them. So yeah, just try it. And if you like it, then you like it. And if you don't, you don't. I mean, that's all we can say on that.
Yeah, also, I mean, you don't lose anything, Warzender. You don't lose anything by trying it, because we don't gatekeep you from downloading the full engine experience, which means you lose some data storage on your hard drive, and if you don't like it, you can just throw it out again. Or you stay in for the ride, latch on to the community, see what people are doing with the engine and see if it's for you or not. There will always be competitors, there will always be more fish in the pond. Yeah, but that is, I think, the way I like to look at it is that if you had one engine to rule them all, and I mean, there are some big ones who probably try to be that, that's fine. But maybe that is just not for everyone. Some people like to work with niche products for one reason or another. There are a bazillion reasons to use the engine. Which one might be the one that wins you over? I don't know. You had to test it yourself. And then, I mean, we're open for feedback, what you like, what you don't like. And at the end of the day, you have to make the decision. Do you want to work with one of the bigger ones, the other ones, or a very small one, maybe an open source engine, or is CryEngine for you? So that's like a canned answer. I tried, so Warzender says, I tried, but there is a difference between prototyping and serious development. Also, I agree with Jesco that some other engines are better for prototyping. Yeah, that's absolutely true. I have seen people who build their prototypes in Unity, for example, because it has C# and is easy and good for prototyping, and then they move on to build their games in CryEngine, Unreal, or any other engine. That is totally legit as well.
That's very subjective, though. I mean, this is like, what are you more used to? I can guarantee you that some of the developers, or most of the people working on CryEngine, they are much faster with CryEngine than any other engine.
Yeah.
And we understand that there's a steeper learning curve for CRYENGINE, and we're obviously aiming to fix that with more documentation, tutorials, and things. But yeah, it's quite a subjective question. We can't. Yeah, if you don't know it, then you have to learn it, right? And yeah, I hope that answers your questions, wasn't it?
Yeah, totally agree. There was another question that I didn't want to miss by Jorma. Certification. By the way, Jorma, I didn't even ask you if you wanted to come on stage and ask the question yourself. I'm sorry. Would you like to do that with the certification question? Hello.
So basically, I saw the certification section on the website, and it just says that they are coming soon, and it's been like that for a few months. So, do you have any data approximations for that when you are planning to make them available?
Yes, now I heard everything. Thank you so much. We had this almost in place, like 2 years ago or something. We almost had everything in place for the documentation, and we worked with a partner. So we had negotiations with a partner to help us with the actual flow of the licensing. You have to keep up the tests. People take tests. We have to supply the answers, the questions, the scores, everything. But then you usually work with a partner who has a readily available system to do this, and then issue certificates, because we wanted to be official. And the issue back in the day was that we couldn't come to an agreement with that partner. So the partner pulled out of the agreement, and we already had provided everything specifically tailored to their system. But that was very unfortunate. We couldn't go on with this partner, and everything had been tailor-made for their system. So we had to start evaluation over again, and also had to start the whole system and questions, answers, everything again, so to speak. And honestly, at this point, it was a bit frustrating for all of us, including Brian. So we decided to gauge interest. And we had a couple of requests, but again, business needs. We didn't have so many requests. So we decided to put it a bit on the back burner. And now, as things have developed, we had the past 2 years were very tough for everyone, I guess. We have evaluated that it probably doesn't make much sense to offer certification for CRYENGINE 5 now. It probably makes more sense to take it from a fresh start with the next iteration of the engine. Because Brian is currently working alongside the developers who are making the new features and everything. And that makes it much easier for us to also develop the certificate alongside while everything is developing. So that's been done. And we definitely plan on launching that certification program, but probably with the next engine version and not with CRYENGINE 5 anymore, because unfortunately that fell flat due to unfortunate events. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, kind of. But I kind of have things that I want to say as a feedback to that, but I'm not sure if I should say them here or write them in the chat.
I mean, that sounds dangerous. Do I have to
it's not dangerous, but it's AMA, so.
I mean, you're here. You have the stage. If you want to say something about it.
Yeah, I'm just thinking that I don't think it's a super big deal to take those exams for CRYENGINE 5 if even though the 6th version is coming out, because I looked at those questions and I know all of them right now. So why shouldn't I just take the exam and not wait 2 years for it or anything like that?
Because we currently cannot issue the certificate. That is the problem. I mean,
yeah.
We can do a quiz, but then it's just a quiz and not really an official certificate, because for the official certification, you have to do a bit more extensive work. We currently have some quizzes and stuff, but an actual certification process would be a bit more involved and probably include some tasks and other things. But we're looking into it. I mean, it's very appreciated. I'm happy that there is demand and interest for this, because it was important for us to bring it on the road. I will definitely speak to Brian about the interest, and that we should probably gauge interest again against our current user base. Because, yeah, honestly, I would love to be able to issue these certificates, and maybe we can find another way to do it. So thank you for your feedback.
Thanks.
Ooh. Thank you so much for the participation. And yeah, I think that's it, right? 17 more minutes to make up for our delay when we started. I think that's fair. Jumpy Wizard says, I would be interested in taking quizzes without the certificate even, but just as a way to reinforce my learning. Yes, and that is something we're actually looking into it. So the whole of May is probably going to be, well, not probably, the whole of May is going to be dedicated to the topic of CRYENGINE learning. Like I said, we have more tutorials coming your way. We will introduce you to Nicholas, who is our new tutorial author. I hope I can get Brian in here for another AMA, because I really would like to do a learning-focused AMA where you guys can also talk to him about tutorial ideas that you're having and what you would like to see. And yeah, that's my teaser for May, so to speak. I think that's a good way to finish today's session. I think Jumpy Wizard also asked a question in the very beginning where they asked if we will have more frequent Q&As or AMA sessions in Discord. So I hope that answers this question also. Yes, we definitely want to do that. We want to get in touch with you guys. We want to talk to you guys. And in May, I hope I can drag Brian in here. And I will probably not say much because Brian has the best ASMR voice. So I'm not gonna say a word. He's just gonna read to you guys. I make him read you bedtime stories or something. Would that be cool? Yeah, I think that would be cool. Yes, Brian is my favorite YouTuber, says Jan. Perfect. Awesome. Moose King asks, you ever heard of this guy called Journey? Nah, never heard of him. I don't know who that is. I have no clue. It sounds German. Nice. So, Jeremy, anything else?
I think there was a question about the issues on GitHub, that we closed issues, and what it means about.
Right. Yeah, Tristan answered some of these for us, but let's have a talk. Let's have a talk as we can comment on that. Jeremy, go ahead.
Yeah, so the issues on GitHub actually, they partially reflect our internal Jira. So this is why GitHub issues is a really good place to submit bugs, that we can actually include them directly into our workflows, right? The side effect of this is that when we look into an issue and we fix an issue, then the issue technically is closed, right? Because we fixed the issue on our side. This doesn't mean that it will be in the next release. There's no way really for us to say whether the fix is on a mainline and will or will not be integrated into the engine. So this is something that is just an artifact of how we integrate the GitHub issues into our internal bug tracking tools. But yeah, we once an issue is fixed, we will look at integrating it into the latest engine if we can, if it makes sense. But yeah, it's not something that we can guarantee on the ticket. So yeah, hopefully that answers that question.
Perfect. Somebody wants to know, is there a book or something else where I can see the limits of the CRYENGINE? No, you have to break it yourself. Or ask Jesko, he's good at that.
Moose King apparently is, I think is it Moose King that's the engine breaker?
Jesko is also good at it. Moose and Jesko should battle off in an epic engine breaker scenario.
Gandalf, yeah, sorry, that's the one.
We have 3 contenders. It's almost a shonen, guys. It's almost a tournament arc. I want to see it. Unfortunately, no book about the engine. The engine is a vast tool, and writing a book about a software that constantly develops is a bit futile. I mean, we try to keep up with our documentation and they are online, but that, as you can see, is a tremendous task already, and we don't always make it. So unfortunately, no book. But look at the documentation. I would say, if you want to know anything about create a player and explain the limits, just look at the documentation and just start testing out the feature yourself. I mean it, like, don't break the engine necessarily, but to just try out where your limits are. And then you may ask here in the chat with all these beautiful people who are happy to help you to explain what the engine can and probably can't do. And I think then you should be golden. But no, we won't, like, if your professor is killing you, like, because you don't write your essay or something, we won't write your essay for you. No, that would be cheating. Also, I don't have time for it. I'm sorry. Cool. So now, we gave you another 20 minutes because of our initial mishaps. And I would say that's fair. Except for Jeremy, Jeremy, you want to stay? Like, you seem very happy to be here today. So if you want to find more questions to answer, but I think I need a break. I think I need to go home at some point.
Yeah, there's plenty of work for me to do. So it's been very chill. It's been a good chat. Perfect.
Thank you so much for being here, Jeremy. Thank you for never abandoning us, even if you moved up in the world. By the way, we will introduce you to Jeremy's new area of expertise soon in a blog post, as well as we're going to have an interview with him. And I'm very much looking forward to that. That's enough foreshadowing for one day. You guys take care. Have a great day. Have a great rest of the week. And I see you next time.
Excellent. Thanks, guys.